Is Hamas ready to give back the hostages to Israel? Check out this clip with Jonathan Conriquez. He's a lieutenant colonel from the IDF. He's also in a think tank in the United States. Check out what he says over here. Very detailed and worthwhile analysis. So let's watch what he says together and talk about it. But before you do, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner.
Joining me now is former IDF spokesperson Jonathan Conriquez. He is also co-founder of Bottom Line Media. Jonathan, I want to start by asking you what you make of this latest offer by Hamas.
Yeah, what I made first, hello, and thank you for having me on the show. I am unfortunately quite experienced with Hamas's tactics, and this looks to me as if they're just playing for time. They're responding a little bit to IDF operations inside Gaza. Apparently, they are now having somewhat of an effect on Hamas. And this is the first time that they're actually making an offer in response to Israeli actions. But anything short of all the hostages, all the bodies, and a complete surrender, in my mind, is nothing but a milestone and something on the way. Israel cannot settle for less. Israel cannot settle for less than 100% security for its civilians. And Israel cannot settle for less than all of the hostages, dead and alive, 59 hostages that need to be returned home. Anything less, I think, is below the bar.
Speaking of hostages, I was fortunate enough to speak to Keith Siegel this week. He said he cannot stop thinking about the remaining hostages. How realistic is it that we will get all 59 hostages away from Hamas?
So this is actually the saddest part. The goals of the war that the state of Israel has defined is to dismantle Hamas's military capabilities and then also dismantle their administrative control over the Gaza Strip and to get back the hostages. Sadly, from a military perspective analysis, I'm not entirely sure that we can do all of those three things successfully, and that something will have to give. And just like Keith has said so emotionally, and I understand every word and I sympathize with every word he has said. Sadly, I don't think that we will be able to get all of the hostages back because I don't think that Hamas will release them. It's Israel's duty to get all of its citizens back, dead and alive. And it's also the state of Israel's commitment to its civilians to protect all of them from future attacks. And that means not leaving Hamas with any capacity to regain military capabilities. And that means to take Hamas out of the game.
Israel says it plans to take over a larger area of Gaza to incorporate those security zones. As far as you know, Jonathan, is this permanent?
Nothing is permanent, and everything is subjective to international agreements and to compromise. Troops, they move in, they can take control over soil, and then if ordered to, they can evacuate the area very quickly, and then that'll be the end of it. What we're seeing are negotiations on the battlefield. Israel is negotiating through using its military capabilities, and I wouldn't, it can be permanent and it can not be permanent. The bottom line is, again, it goes back to Egypt, because I'm not sure that Hamas is really impressed by Israeli maneuvers. It will be impressed if there is a massive Israeli invasion of Gaza again, with tens of thousands of soldiers and massive pressure on Hamas, on its infrastructure and leadership, and most importantly, if Palestinian civilians are allowed to leave, because that would really pull the rug underneath the feet of Hamas, and it would leave them exposed, and they wouldn't have human shields, and they wouldn't have anybody to use between the IDF and themselves. That, I think, is the key, and that is what needs to happen for the sake of the future of Gaza, for Israel's sake, and also for the sake of the Palestinians who, as you say very correctly, are caught in the crossfire, those who aren't Hamas supporters and those who want to end the war. By the way, they're demonstrating on the streets, and they're saying so. They want the war to end, they want to get rid of Hamas, and they want some kind of future after a year and a half of war that Hamas brought upon them.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because you're right. This is rare. We haven't seen Gazans protesting on the Strip against Hamas. Do you think we will see more of these protests?
But I think that Hamas is definitely concerned by it, and Hamas has started to clamp down in Hamas style, which means to use a lot of brute force, executions and beatings and torture. And I think that's happening now, and I think that has an effect on the demonstrations. But, you know, every day that goes by, the situation will continue to deteriorate. Palestinians who are stuck under an oppressive terror organization understand that they have nowhere to go, and that life isn't going to be better as long as Hamas are in control over Gaza, because nothing is going to be rebuilt. So they're out on the street. Eventually, I think they will be brought to this desperate situation, and we will see more and more. We will likely see violent Hamas oppression. I don't think that most American media will cover it, and you won't see it on most places, but that will be the story of violent oppression by Hamas. And at the end of the day, Hamas is an oppressive terrorist organization that has lost popularity and is doing the Palestinian people a disservice.
Sure.
They have brought destruction on them and war, and therefore they will go.
I am running out of time. I want to ask you about a recent airstrike where Gaza says 100 people were killed yesterday. They were sheltering at a school. Israel says they hit a Hamas command and control center. We do know, and you said this, Hamas uses these innocent civilians as human shields, but how do you maintain public support with these kinds of images that so many people are bombarded with as well?
Yeah, the images are bad, but they are not truthful. And I would suggest that people look into the newly updated Hamas casualty figures. I don't know if you know, but the last week, Hamas disappeared from their own casualty list that they have been publishing, more than 3,500 women and children from the Hamas so-called health ministry. All of a sudden, they disappeared, and they turned into fighting age men, which is probably more truthful than what Hamas has been reporting all along. I mention that because I think that any and every piece of information coming out of Gaza, as long as Hamas is in control, should be vetted, investigated, and I think that not News Nation, but many other media outlets, AP and the news agencies and CNN and many others have been taking Hamas information at face value. I think that's a journalistic travesty, because this is a terrorist organization that lies and distorts, and now when they're faced to own up to the facts, now they're correcting their data.
Jonathan Conriquez, I really enjoyed this conversation, sir. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
Well, as we knew the entire time, Hamas lies through their teeth about the numbers of civilians. Whenever there's some sort of strike, they know within hours or minutes as to the exact number of people. It's complete fabrication. So that's how you can come up with numbers so quickly. The war could have ended right away. Hamas needs to just give up the hostages. That's number one. And surrender its leadership, which apparently is not very popular currently in the Gaza. We need to free Palestine from Hamas rule and need to provide a better life for everyone in that region. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.